Why did Ice Age Europeans wear jewellery? A new paper suggests an intriguing answer to this question. In this week's Ancient History News, I'll be discussing that particular study, as well as the excavation of a royal Mayan tomb in Guatemala, an unusual megalithic burial in Sweden where the skulls are missing, a new investigation into the cooking practices of Neolithic people in Germany, and the discovery of a rare Bronze Age artefact in England. New study may explain why Ice Age Europeans wore jewellery. During the Ice Age between 34,000 and 24,000 years ago, hunter-gatherer groups across the European continent made beads to be worn ornamentally from an array of materials such as ivory, amber, shells, and fox teeth. These foragers were also prolific artists, producing thousands of cave paintings and enigmatic sculptures such as the Venus figurines. Due to similarities in the way stone tools were manufactured across the European continent at that time, these Ice Age people are now referred to as the Gravettian culture. The name comes from the La Gravette site in France. While most Ice Age endeavours can usually be attributed to basic survival needs, these more artistic efforts of creating jewellery, cave paintings and sculptures are more difficult to explain. More than 100 Venus figurines produced by the Gravettian culture have been found so far. Mostly made of clay, ivory or limestone, they are thought to have represented fertility deities and have been used for rituals or during childbirth. There are many hypotheses as to why cave paintings were made. Often depicting Ice Age fauna, there's a strong likelihood they were in some way connected to hunting. It's been suggested they were a sort of ritual to bring good luck in the hunt, or that they communicated information on prey and hunting seasons to other people within the community. There's also evidence they may have been calendars or a proto-writing system. This is by no way an exhaustive list of hypotheses on either Venus figurines or cave paintings, but just a few of the ideas I've read about. It's hard to imagine that jewellery was anything more than an aesthetic accessory. However, a new paper published in the journal Nature Human Behaviour has offered up a potential explanation for the wearing of jewellery that puts it beyond pure decoration. The research was led by a University of Bordeaux archaeologist and doctoral student Jack Baker. He analysed the jewellery from 112 Gravettian sites that have been excavated over the past 200 years. Thousands of beads from these sites were then put into categories based on the raw materials they were made from and their designs. Baker found that similar jewellery had been worn at sites that were geographically close and was able to define 9 distinct cultural groups based on the jewellery that was worn. For example, people who foraged around eastern sites such as Kostenki on the Don River in Russia wore beads made of stone and the canines of red deer. However, hunter-gatherers in northwestern Europe wore shells derived from dentalian mollusks. Baker suggests that grouping the entirety of Ice Age Europe into one culture is too simplistic, and what we're actually looking at are 9 distinct groups who wore jewellery to signal their membership of that particular community. Since some of these Ice Age sites have also yielded DNA from burials, Baker looked to see if there was a relationship between the cultural groups identified by the jewellery and the groups with shared ancestry. Rather interestingly, he found that a close genetic relationship didn't mean shared ornamental practices. For example, some Ice Age groups from the Italian peninsula buried their dead with cowrie shells and others with fish vertebrae, even though they were closely related genetically. He also found evidence that neighbouring groups may have swapped jewellery or territories. It's possible that different jewellery was worn by those with different social roles as well. Overall, the study's interdisciplinary approach shows that genetic lineages do not necessarily reflect cultural expression. It also suggests that the Gravettian culture was not one culture at all, but 9 distinct groups, and that jewellery was an important outward expression of membership to that group. Royal Mayan tomb discovered in Guatemala. In 2022, archaeologists working at the Mayan site of Choquitam near the Mexico and Belize borders in Guatemala discovered a royal tomb in a pyramid dating back 1,700 years and belonging to a previously unknown king. Since then, researchers have been working to preserve the tomb and document all the artifacts excavated from it. Now, a press release by Tulane University has detailed some of the finds, which give interesting insights into the religion and hierarchy of Chalkitum at that time. They included a mosaic jade mask and 16 shells of spondylus, a rare spiny oyster, which would have been used as either jewellery, currency, or for sacrificial offerings. Human femurs carved with hieroglyphs were also found. One of these hieroglyphs shows a man holding a jade mask, which is similar in appearance to the grave good. Researchers suggest these carvings may represent the king's father and grandfather, as well as his links to the Mayan centers of Tikal and Teotihuacan. DNA testing will be carried out on the king's bones to find out more about him. The tomb is a rare find since a lot of sites from that time period have been looted over the years. In fact, according to the press release, the tomb was found close to an area where looters had started digging before abandoning their endeavour. The site was identified using LiDAR. Unusual megalithic tomb found in Sweden. A study published in the Journal of Neolithic Archaeology details a rather unusual early Neolithic tomb discovered last summer in the village of Tiarp near Falbygden in Sweden. The tomb takes the form of a megalithic dolmen and dates back to 5,500 years ago. Archaeologists found the remains of 12 individuals, but strangely these did not include skulls or large bones such as thigh and arm bones. The tomb had remained untouched since the Neolithic, so the bones must have been removed during burial or very soon afterwards. None of the skeletal remains showed signs of violence. DNA studies are being carried out to see if the buried individuals had any diseases and to see if they were related to one another. There are many Neolithic passage graves in the Falbygden region, but this dolmen is between 150 and 200 years older than the others. This makes it one of the oldest stone tombs in Scandinavia. Agriculture had reached the area around 500 years before the tomb was built, so when researchers discovered it, they thought that those buried in the dolmen most probably belonged to an agrarian society. A chemical analysis of the skeletal remains has confirmed this. The lead author of the paper, archaeologist Carl-Göran Sjögren from the University of Gothenburg in Sweden, says it's not clear why the skeletons are missing skulls and large bones, but may have something to do with burial rituals. A new paper analyses food residues from Neolithic pots in Germany. The Middle Neolithic settlement of Oldenburg LA 77 in Schleswig-Holstein in Germany was inhabited by the Funnelbeker people between 3270 and 2920 BCE. It's one of the oldest villages in the region and housed its population in around 40 dwellings. The settlement was agrarian, with its inhabitants cultivating cereals, managing livestock, hunting, fishing, and foraging. Previous studies on food remains recovered from the site showed that the preparation and cooking of meals were complex processes, but researchers wanted to know more about the cooking practices of the villagers, so carried out an integrated botanical and chemical analysis of surface residues. Prior analyses have been done on residues within pots rather than these external crusts. 21 pottery fragments from large vessels made from clay combined with crushed granite were analysed in the study. Most of these were undecorated, but 2 fragments came from ceramic discs that had been decorated with nail and finger impressions. Many of these ceramic discs have been found at Neolithic sites in Europe, but their function is unknown. They may have been used for baking flatbread or as lids or serving plates. 2/3 of the fragments were too contaminated with soil to yield accurate results. 5 of the crusts contained emmer grain particles. Traces of milk-ripe barley grains were found on 2 of the surface residues. It was also found that wild plants had been combined with cereals in the cooking process, which took place at low temperature and utilized water. The researchers determined that prior to cooking, the emmer had been thoroughly processed, so dehusked, sieved, and winnowed. It's amazing what these botanical and chemical analyses can reveal. Metal detectorist uncovers 3,000-year-old gold cloak fastener in England. Last year, amateur metal detectorist Jonathan Needham discovered a rare Bronze Age gold cloak fastener in Staffordshire, England. Information on the find has now been published. Measuring 13 centimetres in length and weighing 110 grams, the artefact is extremely rare, with only 6 having been found in England before. The cloak fastener was first sent to Derby Museum before being moved to the British Museum in London to be examined. A report on such an object can take as much as 5 years to be completed, but due to the significance of the find, it was done in just a few months. It's expected to sell for a large amount at auction. Normally, such proceeds are then split between the landowner and the finder. That's it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Thank you to my patrons and channel members, and I'll see you next time.